History gets polished, edges smoothed. But revolutions are not clean. They are born in fire, in smoke, in men who hold the line when fear claws at the ribs. Victory was not inevitable. The revolution was forged in war. But it is understood in conversation, around tables, between friends, with books open and arguments alive. This is Rogue Island, ground truth of the American Revolution.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Rogue Island. I'm Ben Powers, and I'm here with my co-host.
Bjorn Bruckshaw.
All
How you guys
right.
doing?
So Bjorn is going to be the running the show tonight. He has a fantastic presentation on a fella named Captain Stephen Olney, who is a combat hero of Rhode Island's Continental line, and he did some amazing stuff. He's been in battles I hadn't heard of. He performed valiantly in battles I have heard of. And Bjorn is ready to give us the full rundown on Stephen Olney. So Bjorn, take it away, man.
Absolutely. So I'm here today because we're Rogue Island. It's all about Rhode Island. One of the most forgotten heroes of Rhode Island during the Revolutionary War is a man named Captain Stephen Olney. Now, I got confused too because there's another guy named Captain Jeremiah Olney. All right, so I just want to clear the air here that we're talking about Captain Stephen Olney. They're both related. They're third cousins. They both fought next to each other for the entire war. Like it was just like almost their twins. So I got confused. I had to do so much research. In the slide, you are going to see Captain Stephen Olney. Captain Stephen Olney, to me, in this picture, maybe it's just me. I don't know about you, Ben, but he looks like he's 4 or 5 feet tall. Does not look like a big man.
There's no perspective, so you can't really tell. But,
yeah.
But he fought like he was 10 feet tall, right?
Absolutely. That's the best part about it. So Captain Olney, he is from North Providence, Rhode Island. He was born in October of 1755. He is a descendant of Thomas Olney, who is one of the founders of Rhode Island, alongside a man named Roger Williams. And I think, Ben, you might know who Roger Williams is, right?
Oh, heck yeah. He's the founder of Rhode Island, the original dissenter.
And with Roger Williams, I think he's the one that made Rhode Island be so hostile towards the British. I mean, he got kicked out of Massachusetts.
Exactly.
Right?
Definitely independent-minded.
Absolutely. So Captain Stephen Olney came from a long line of family members that are really, really prominent. One of the oldest families in the colony. And actually, I had found out before we aired, and I had spoke to Ben, that actually his nephew or grandnephew, I believe, or something like that, served in the Civil War, and he was a general, and he signed up, I believe it was a 64th Infantry Regiment with New York at the age of 14.
That's crazy. So if he fought for the entire war at the age of 19 or 20, he's an officer, and he eventually goes on to general officer rank. That's amazing.
Right? Like it's just this family has something they drank that's in their blood, and I don't know, man. So all right, let me move on to the next screen. So now you guys got to understand who and where Captain Olney comes from. So he starts, like I said, in Providence. He was the 5th generation descendant of Thomas Olney, who helped found Rhode Island. His family's connected to him, to Roger Williams, and he grew up around Rhode Island militia culture, right? He witnessed the colony moving towards rebellion. He saw the Gaspee burning. He saw all these Rhode Islanders, I guess you could say, standing up for what they believed was right against the British. And you see here in the picture that it's a painting of Alonzo Chapel from 1857 with the landing of Roger Williams in 1636. So here we are. He entered service in 1775. Things have happened. Lexington conquered. Boston Tea Party, Gaspee, Providence Tea Party. All of this stuff has happened. right? Now, colonies are on edge. They're fighting back. They're like, okay, now we're going to war, right? This is a year before they declare independence. And he was a farmer. He worked on the farm with his dad. Well, he joined the local militia and he actually became a ranger. A lot of people understand that, the Queen's Rangers with Robert Rogers, right? Everybody's seen that show Turn. They're on hardcore, best of the best. So he joins the North Providence Rangers, and he's commissioned in Daniel Hitchcock's regiment. He entered service in 1775. And he's at 19 years old. So he joins early and he's going to get his training and he learns about the education of military warfare, how to fight, how to be an officer during this time. And that comes to play, as you'll see later down, the line. Ben, I got to ask, at the age of 19, would you go in and be an officer?
No, I mean, I found it hard to be a few years older, at 22, 23, when you've got that responsibility. Now, granted, we had almost serving a probation. You've got an experienced platoon sergeant who everybody knows is, really in charge, but you're learning how the Army operates from that guy in a militia organization where even if they were training, weekly and were taking their preparations for war very seriously, you might have some veterans of the French and Indian War, but you have a lot less infrastructure to rely on. So that definitely would have taken some type of strength of character to successfully serve as an officer that young.
Yeah, and I know you. So let me ask you this: when you were an officer, and you were a young officer, if you let me ask you this: did you ever, command somebody that was years older than you?
Oh, sir.
Like a
Sir.
right? How would that make you feel? Like, because I know when I was in there, we get a 23, 24-year-old officer, and he's leading men who are what 35, 40 years old. How would that make you feel?
No, it's definitely intimidating. And after a while, you form a bond with your unit. But the first, 6 months to maybe even a year, it's definitely a steep learning curve. And if you don't earn respect, and you're never going to formally command, or I shouldn't say formally, you're never going to successfully command that unit. You might be formally in command, but they're taking their cues from the platoon sergeant.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to, Olney here, he was put under Hitchcock's, wing, I guess you could say. So I wonder if back then too, that if you were put under somebody's wing who had a good standing that people really, really liked, they're like, hey, he's under his wing, he's good to go. They didn't give him a hard time. You know what I mean?
No, I got you. You kind of some reflected authority off that respected regimental commander. And I'm also wondering if being from a prominent family might have helped as well. Like, oh, the Olneys are you know, they go all the way back to the beginning of the colony, sort of brought up to lead kind of thing. I'm not saying they are aristocrats. I mean, the colonies were, against that from a philosophical standpoint, but just
Yeah.
a respect for the fact that he's from an established family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, having well, so his father was also an officer during the French and Indian War. I didn't get too much information off of that, but I knew his father was also in the military. He was a militiaman. So that also helps work with him going into a Rangers regiment under somebody so important,
Now, one thing
right?
I'm interested in, and we don't need to deep dive this right now. I know you've got a lot to talk about, but it's a New England regiment. It's Rhode Island. I know that the Massachusetts regiments early in the war were electing their officers. I don't know if he was elected, that would even show more respect from the men of the local community towards the only name. I don't know if he was elected or appointed, but that it just makes me wonder, given the New England militia culture of the time.
Yeah, I didn't see during my research if he was elected or not. And I'm going to be the devil's advocate here too, and go off of what you said here. I don't know if he was elected, or again, if his standing put him in that spot, or you know what I mean,
Sure.
right? Mike, your standing is your fifth great grandfather helped found this, this great colony. You're going to be a lieutenant. We're going to put you right there, right? And we're going to put you under the best of the best.
I could certainly see that happening.
Right. So, all right, let me see. Let's move on here. So now during the early campaigns of the war, he's part of the Rhode Island Regiment. And, you know, Ben, we've talked about Christopher Green, Nathaniel Green. I mean, all of these Rhode Island regiments. And a lot of people don't realize the amount of fighting these Rhode Island regiments have done. I mean, these guys were hardcore. And if you look at it, they fought at Long Island, White Plains, Brandywine, Germantown, Monmouth, and the Jersey Retreat. And these are just a handful of the fights that they've been part of.
Yeah, and you and I have talked in the past, and it's common knowledge to people who are going to be watching this, that in the beginning of the Revolution through 1777, you're focused on the North, you're focused on the outbreak in Massachusetts, you're focused on the Saratoga campaign, but then you've got the middle colonies with the battles around New York, moving down to Philadelphia in 1777, then Monmouth in 1778. So this reads like a world tour of the first 3 years of the war, or 1776 to 1778. He's hitting every major battle. If they awarded a campaign medal at that time, he would have had so many campaign stars for all the different battles he fought in. So
Yeah.
he definitely had a front row seat at the war in the North.
Absolutely. And if you look at it, it's amazing. And I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but it's amazing how he survived, how some of these battles really were. You know, like look at Monmouth, look at Germantown, right? I mean, that is a brutal fight. And to survive all of those, not only that, he was at Princeton, he was at Trenton, right? So
Amazing.
All of that, just it's amazing. And he's at such a young age.
So he got a lot of experience very quickly. He would have been wise beyond his years after the first year of campaigning, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think he might have been 19 when all this stuff kicked off. By the time he's 25, I bet you he's got a beard grayer than mine.
Exactly.
And it goes to show that these battles turn these men into hardened veterans.
Exactly.
Turn them into being able to survive. And one of these instances is this man, Stephen Olney, saved a future president at the Battle of Princeton, right? At the Battle of Princeton, James Monroe was wounded. And on their retreat, or excuse me, not on their retreat, but in the middle of the battle, and they're getting shot at, he runs over and picks him up and runs all the way back to bring him behind the lines to save him. That's a Medal of Honor. That's exactly. A medal.
Oh, that you're not wrong, man. So what else? Right? What else does he do?
All right. So now we're moving on. The war's carrying on, and here he's placed under the command of Colonel Israel Angel. All right, Israel Angel's bad. He commands all these veterans. Now the Rhode Island regiments have been through all of these battles, and they're losing men left and right. So now, by the time 1780, I think the 2nd Regiment had the most experience in all of the Continental Army. They were one of the most experienced units from all the combat that they've done. And again, you think about Rhode Island, not very big, right? Exactly. So now they were known for their discipline and toughness, and were known not to back down. And it kind of shows again, with them being the first to declare independence as well, right? So it kind of follows suit going forward through the whole war.
It definitely gives support to the stereotype of, scrappy, independent Rhode Island. They're backing it up.
And it's funny because not many people realize that, right? Not people think, oh man, so probably when people look at me, oh, you're from Rhode Island. There's nobody in Rhode Island. You could drive across it in 45 minutes, right? So people don't realize that when they were serious and were in stating that we are going to declare and we are going to fight because we know what they're doing is wrong, we mean it. We're not going to sit there and say, oh, we'll fight for 1 week and back up. They mean it.
So when the war started I'm sorry, I'm interrupted, but when the war started shifting south, does Olney start shifting south as well?
He does. He's with the regiment the whole time, right? So he goes from like all the battles. He walks with the second regiment his whole entire career, I guess you can say. And you think about it, by 1780, so he joined when he was 19, so he must be 24,
24, and he's got 5 years of experience.
Yeah, I mean, and you're fighting in those wars like it's just 24 years old, and you've experienced more than what half the Continental Army has experienced as a whole.
That's amazing.
Right? So now 1780 comes, all right? So they're marching down, and we end up at the Battle of Springfield, okay? Battle of Springfield.
Now there's a Springfield like in every state. So what state?
So, yes. So there are two different Springfields in the Civil War, right? So there are two battles of Springfield. We're not talking about the battles of Springfield, Missouri. Right? So those are completely separate ones.
Okay,
so, yep.
Union County, New Jersey.
Yes. Yep. Battle of Springfield, Union County, New Jersey. All right. So now this shows you, right, that the war's starting to slowly move south, right? They're going from Rhode Island, they're fighting in Germantown, and they're slowly making their way down. 1780 at this time, and now they're at the Battle of Springfield. This is a crazy battle, a really, really intense battle. So under the British commander of, Ben, you got to say this because I can't say it, man.
That's Wilhelm von Nipphausen.
There we go. Yeah, it sounds like a sneeze to me. But it's under him, and the British force of 6,000 men are at Battle of Springfield. And we all know Nathaniel Greene. He's commanding this huge unit down there. And the British objective at this time was to take the Hobart Gap and Morristown. I think we all know about Morristown. Exactly. Some may not know about Hobart Gap too much. So what the British wanted to do was they wanted to create a two-prong assault, okay? And they start from Elizabethtown Point, and one column would advance along the Galloping Hill Road. And I'll pull up the map here in a second. And they'll straight through Connecticut Farms and Springfield, while another column would take the Vauxhall Road north of Springfield along the southern edge of Short Hills. Both were heading for the same objective called Hobart Gap, the path through the Watchung Mountains that would allow an advance cross 11 miles of flat ground to Washington's main encampment at Morristown. So now we come upon the Battle of Springfield on June 23rd, 1780. All right, this battle takes place in Union County, New Jersey. All right, this battle is a crazy, crazy battle. It's pretty intense, and you will see again the Rhode Islanders standing their ground. The British are down there under British commander William von Kniphausen.
Wilhelm von Nipphausen, and he's a Hessian general. He's working for the British, yes, but he's a Hessian.
He is definitely a Hessian, absolutely, with a British force of about 6,000 men. Now, when the British force it's also mixed with Hessians and British. So people, when you think about it, yes, they're technically under British control, but they're also they're considered Hessians. And the American commander is my one and only Nathaniel Greene. All right, he's the man right now, and right now the British objective is to come over and capture George Washington at his encampment at Morristown. Right, a lot of us know what happened at Morristown. So the British plan was a two-prong assault, and I'll put the map up here in a second so you guys can see. It was a two-pronged assault, and starting from Elizabeth Point, one column would advance along the Galloping Hill Road straight through Connecticut Farms in Springfield, while another column would take the Vauxhall Road north of Springfield along the southern edge of Short Hills. Both were heading for the same objective called Hobart Gap.
So let me ask you a quick question here. So I'm assuming that Morristown is protected by a terrain feature, the Walktung Mountains, and so Kniphausen needs Hobart Gap in order to be able to attack Morristown. And Greene knows that, and his job is to hold the gap.
Absolutely. And I don't want to give too many secrets yet, but you will see the Rhode Islanders come and save the day again. So I guess I kind of just ruined it. But anyways, so the path through the Watchung Mountains, and they would allow an advance 11 miles across open ground where they would meet Washington's main encampment at Morristown. So they think, okay, we can go there. We're going to do this. We're going to be able to get through, and we're going to be able to get right on George Washington's tail. Well, you forgot to mention about Rhode Island, because I'm going to pull up the map now, and you'll be able to see. Oh. So here we are. Here is a map and battle plan and layout of all of the units and regiments that were at the Battle of Springfield. Okay. So under the commander, you have Major General Nathaniel Greene. All right. You have the New Jersey Brigade under Brigadier General William Maxwell. Okay. Stark's Brigade, who has Mass, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, under Brigadier General John Stark.
Now, this is our guy Stark, Battle of Bennington Stark.
Yes.
Nice.
Yep. Okay. So I mean, we don't have any slumps in this matchup going here.
Oh, some heavy hitters.
Right. So we have the 2nd Rhode Island Regiment. We have under Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Olney. You have the 2nd New Jersey Regiment under Colonel Israel Shreve. And then you have the 3rd New Jersey Regiment under Colonel Elias Dayton. And then you have Lee's Legion, the light infantry, under Lieutenant Colonel, your boy, Light Horse Harry Lee, right? So, and I just want to say, with the 2nd Rhode Island Regiment, they have a man named Israel Angel, who is commanding the 1st and 2nd, okay? So he's overall, and you will see right there in the middle, it says Colonel Angel's Rhode Island Regiments held this bridge under heavy artillery fire and repeated assaults. And part of that, I'm going to tell you a quick story here in a second that is absolutely breathtaking and mind-blowing. So now the militia, you have the New Jersey militia, which is various units. You have the Connecticut militia under various units. You have artillery pieces, but not as many as the British have right now. And at one point, the bridge the Rhode Islanders were protecting and defending only had one cannon in their favor. That's it. They had one. So now, under the British Hessian order of battle, you have the Colonel, Lieutenant General Wilhelm Ben, that's all you, under overall command of Sir Henry Clinton. All right. So you have the 22nd Regiment Foot, you have the 37th Regiment Foot, the 38th Regiment of Foot, the 42nd Royal Highland Regiment, the 43rd Regiment of Foot, the 57th Regiment Foot, the Hessian Lieb Regiment, Hessian von Dunham Regiment, which is, again, unbelievable. I'll get to that in a second. The Hessian Jaegers, the light infantry, the Queen's Rangers, the 1st New Jersey Volunteers, and the 4th New Jersey Volunteers, the 17th Light Dragoons, the British and Hessian Cavalry, and the Royal Artillery with several guns. So now you look at the British, battle of order, like or the order of battle, they came to fight, man.
Yeah,
Compared to what
6,000 troops. That's a pretty that's not a small force by the standards of the American Revolution.
and look who they have. They have the Queen's Rangers. They have, the dragoons coming in at you from everywhere. You got well, how many regiments of foot are coming? You've got the Hessians. And then I got to bring up Von Dunham again because this guy, this guy died at the Battle of at Red Bank by a Rhode Island regiment after he wanted vengeance from the Rhode Island regiment's attack at them at Princeton and Trenton, who he was over a command, and now he's dead, and they're attacking the Rhode Island regiments again. This guy cannot get away from the Rhode Island. I mean, like, what? It just cracks me up to when I was doing this and saw that they named the Hessian regiment the Von Dunham regiment. So, anyways, you're going to see, what the overall battle plan was. And if you look over to the right, you're going to see the bridge over the Rahway River, which was destroyed by Greene. Okay, you have over by Elizabethtown Point. All right, to the left, you have the Vauxhall Bridge, which was also destroyed by Greene after the battle. Okay,
Tracking.
So you're going to see 4 different line of defenses for this Continental Army. Okay, the first line of defense is going to be the Connecticut Farms under Colonel Elias Dayton, the 3rd New Jersey Regiment under militia under Brigadier General Nathaniel Hurd. Okay, the second line of defense is going to be the Galloping Hill Bridge. Okay, this is where Rhode Islanders saved the day. And I hate to say it. So you're going to be under Colonel Israel Angel and the 2nd Rhode Island Regiment, who have about 160 men because they've lost men to wounds, to death, to sickness, to all sorts of stuff. All right. So you don't remember, you have a couple regiments there. Then the 3rd line, you have the West Branch Bridge, which is under Colonel Israel Shreve of the 2nd New Jersey Regiment. So now we come upon the Battle of Springfield on June 23rd, 1780. All right, this battle takes place in Union County, New Jersey. All right, this battle is a crazy, crazy battle. It's pretty intense. And you will see, again, the Rhode Islanders standing their ground. The British are down there under British commander William von Kniphausen.
Wilhelm von Kniphausen, and he's a Hessian general. He's working for the British, yes, but he's a Hessian.
He is definitely a Hessian, absolutely. With a British force of about 6,000 men. Now, when the British force it's also mixed with Hessians and British. So people, when you think about it, yes, they're technically under British control, but they're considered Hessians. And the American commander is my one and only Nathaniel Greene. All right, he's the man right now, and right now the British objective is to come over and capture George Washington at his encampment at Morristown. Right, a lot of us know what happened at Morristown. So the British plan was a 2-prong assault, and I'll put the map up here in a second so you guys can see. It was a 2-prong assault, and starting from Elizabeth Point, one column would advance along the Galloping Hill Road straight through Connecticut Farms in Springfield, while another column would take the Vauxhall Road north of Springfield along the southern edge of Short Hills. Both were heading for the same objective called Hobart Gap.
So let me ask you a quick question here. So I'm assuming that Morristown is protected by a terrain feature, the Wachtung Mountains, and so Kniphausen needs Hobart Gap in order to be able to attack Morristown. And Greene knows that, and his job is to hold the gap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give too many secrets yet, but you will see the Rhode Islanders come and save the day again. So I guess I kind of just ruined it. But anyways, so the path through the Watchung Mountains, and they would allow an advance 11 miles across open ground where they would meet Washington's main encampment at Morristown. So they think, okay, we can go there. We're going to do this. We're going to be able to get through, and we're going to be able to get right on George Washington's tail. Well, you forgot to mention about Rhode Island, because I'm going to pull up the map now and you'll be able to see. Oh. So here we are. Here is a map and battle plan and layout of all of the units and regiments that were at the Battle of Springfield. Okay. So under the commander, you have Major General Nathaniel Greene. All right. You have the New Jersey Brigade under Brigadier General William Maxwell. Okay. Stark's Brigade, who has Mass, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, under Brigadier General John Stark.
Now, this is our guy Stark, Battle of Bennington Stark.
Yes.
Nice.
Yep. Okay. So I mean, we don't have any slumps in this matchup going here.
Oh, some heavy hitters.
Right? So we have the 2nd Rhode Island Regiment. We have under Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Olney. You have the 2nd New Jersey Regiment under Colonel Israel Shreve. And then you have the 3rd New Jersey Regiment under Colonel Elias Dayton. And then you have Lee's Legion, the light infantry, under Lieutenant Colonel, your boy, Light Horse Harry Lee, right? So, and I just want to say, with the 2nd Rhode Island Regiment, they have a man named Israel Angel who is commanding the 1st and 2nd, okay? So he's overall, and you'll see right there in the middle, it says Colonel Angel's Rhode Island Regiments held this bridge under heavy artillery fire and repeated assaults. And part of that, I'm going to tell you a quick story here in a second that is absolutely breathtaking and mind-blowing. So now the militia, you have the New Jersey militia, which is various units. You have the Connecticut militia under various units. You have artillery pieces, but not as many as the British have right now. And at one point, the British Rhode Islanders were protecting and defending, only had 1 cannon in their favor. That's it. They had 1. So now, under the British Hessian order of battle, you have the Colonel, Lieutenant General Wilhelm Ben, under overall command of Sir Henry Clinton. All right. So you have the 22nd Regiment Foot, you have the 37th Regiment Foot, the 38th Regiment of Foot, the 42nd Royal Highland Regiment, the 43rd Regiment of Foot, the 57th Regiment Foot, the Hessian Lieb Regiment, Hessian von Dunham Regiment, which is, again, unbelievable. I'll get to that in a second. The Hessian Jaegers, the light infantry, the Queen's Rangers, the 1st New Jersey Volunteers, and the 4th New Jersey Volunteers, the 17th Light Dragoons, the British and Hessian Cavalry, and the Royal Artillery with several guns. So now you look at the British, battle of order, or the order of battle, they came to fight, man. Compared to
6,000 troops, that's that's not a small force by the standards of the American Revolution.
And look who they have. They have the Queen's Rangers. They have, the dragoons coming in at you from everywhere. You got how many regiments of foot are coming? You've got the Hessians, and then I got to bring up Von Dunham again, because this guy died at the Battle of Red Bank by a Rhode Island regiment after he wanted vengeance from the Rhode Island regiment's attack at them at Princeton and Trenton, who he was over a command, and now he's dead. And they're attacking the Rhode Island regiments again. This guy cannot get away from the Rhode Island. I mean, like, what? It just cracks me up to when I was doing this and saw that they named the Hessian regiment the Von Dunham Regiment. So, anyways, you're going to see, what the overall battle plan was. And if you look over to the right, you're going to see the bridge over the Rahway River, which was destroyed by Greene. Okay, you have over by Elizabethtown Point. All right, to the left, you have the Vauxhall Bridge, which was also destroyed by Greene after the battle. Okay,
tracking.
So you're going to see 4 different line of defenses for this Continental Army, okay? The first line of defense is going to be the Connecticut Farms under Colonel Elias Dayton, the 3rd New Jersey Regiment under militia under Brigadier General Nathaniel Hurd, okay? The second line of defense is going to be the Galloping Hill Bridge, okay? This is where Rhode Islanders saved the day. And I hate to say it. So you're going to be under Colonel Israel Angel and the 2nd Rhode Island Regiment, who have about 160 men because they've lost men to wounds, to death, to sickness, to all sorts of stuff. All right. So you don't remember, you have a couple regiments there. Then the 3rd line, you have the West Branch Bridge, which is under Colonel Israel Shreve of the 2nd New Jersey Regiment.
I got to say, this is giving me, to take nothing away from Daniel Morgan, I'm kind of getting Cowpens vibes. But
yes. Where it was more of like a defensive battle, right?
Yes.
Or like, you're not doing it. You're not going anywhere. We're staying right here, right?
But you got to hold the pass. That's the whole mission.
Absolutely. You're holding this because guess what? If they get behind us, it's a wide open road to George Washington, right? We can't have that because if that's the case, the whole army is just going to be kaput.
Roger.
So now we're going to look at where the British are going to be attacking from, okay? So here you have, I guess, the Vauxhall Road column under, I guess, Matthews column with approximately 3,000 men. All right, you have the Queen's Rangers, who are no slouches, New Jersey Volunteers, who are just, I would imagine, the loyalists and the cowboys that we had talked about in the previous episodes.
Loyalist type.
Yep, absolutely. You have the Guards Battalion, and you have other British troops that are probably mixed in with regiments of foot. And then over to, I guess, the left side, you have the Galloping Hill Road column under Nippenhausen Road column, or their main column, who have another approximately 3,000 men. They have the 37th and 38th Regiments of Foot, the Hessian Jaegers. They also have the light, I think it was the light cavalry or the light dragoons, and artillery. So now we're going to start, I'm going to move over to the next. And down at the bottom, before I do that, I'll talk about the sequence of events. So 5 a.m., the British advance from Elizabethtown Point. Queen's Rangers and the New Jersey Volunteers lead, right? So the American outposts are now driven in, right? So those Queen's Rangers, and they're attacking, and those outposts are like, yeah, we're out of here. See ya. Because they're getting overrun. So now Dayton, between 6 and 8 a.m., Dayton's 3rd New Jersey holds Connecticut Farms, but is flanked by, of course, the Simcoe guy that we all know from Turn, who's not at all like Simcoe in Turn, by Simcoe's Queen's Rangers. Okay? So now the Americans withdraw to the next line, which is now that second line of defense, which is now that Rhode Island regiment.
That Galloping Hill Bridge in that vicinity.
Absolutely. So now Colonel Israel Angel is like, oh, wow, we got a storm coming our way. So now between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m., Nippenhausen sends most of his troops to the Vauxhall Road. Okay. So he's trying to do a right flanking movement. And now Kniphausen sends his main army to attack that second line of defense. Okay. So now that during 7 and 9, that's what's going on. Now between 9 and 11, heavy artillery is just going back and forth. The British heavy artillery is nailing Colonel Angel's 2nd Rhode Island Regiment, like blasting away, trying to get through and make them weak. Okay.
Got it.
But Colonel Angel's 2nd Rhode Island repulses multiple heavy British assaults on them. The British had 3,000 men at one point attacking those retreating from the New Jersey regiment, and combined with those 160 men from that Rhode Island regiment. 3,000 men against that many men is not an easy task, right?
Right.
Not an easy task at all.
Not to take anything away from the Rhode Island Regiment and the other Continental troops and American militia who are holding this position, is there anything that you read in either the primary or secondary sources that indicates that it was a particularly strong position? Like it was going to be tough for infantry to take?
No. So actually what I did read, it was actually a weak position.
Oh,
because
wow.
all it was a bridge, one simple bridge where they had to cross, and they thought it was apparently weak, and they had intel that Rhode Island didn't have enough men as well. They thought that with all this pressure and bombardment of all these artillery, that the Rhode Island would just give up and say, hey, we're out of here.
Got it.
We're going back. And at the beginning, the British thought that what Greene wanted to do was just delay, not stop.
Got it.
Right? They just wanted to put some pressure on the British and delay them, so that way the men in the back, and give Washington time to kind of react and to do things.
Gotcha.
Once he got word. They didn't expect to be held this hard by this little Rhode Island regiment. And so now I shouldn't say the best part of this story, but one of the, and I get goosebumps talking about it, one of the biggest and mind-blowing parts of the story comes at 11 a.m. So during this battle, Rhode Island is running out of ammo. These guys you're going against a force of 3,000 men. You're shooting, they were running out of wads. They're running out of ammo. So there was a church in back, and there was a chaplain named Caldwell. Chaplain Caldwell goes into the church and starts grabbing these hymns and rips out the paper of hymn and starts handing them to the soldiers as wadding, right? So that to me, and what he said was, as he's distributing them, he says, men, give them Watts.
The Watts hymnal.
Right? So that to me shows, hey, we're not going in here. We're going to use every tool we have, and we are going to stop you. Right? It's amazing to me, and I don't know how you feel about this, Ben, but back then, the mindset of some of these, the preachers and some of the chaplains and just some of the men they were like, you have to kill me to pass me and to trump on my rights, So I don't know how you feel about something like that.
No, it's impressive because the religion certainly had a stronger sway in everyday life than it does in the 21st century, at least for most people. And to have a fighting chaplain who is, not only participating and taking care of your spiritual welfare, but taking care of your physical welfare on the battlefield, that just speaks volumes about the commitment that these guys had to defending their rights.
Absolutely. And not only that, but yes, there was religion, but he also believed in fighting for it, right? Exactly. Now he's there and he's handing out and he's ripping up hymns.
Very Old Testament religion, that's for sure.
Yes. And it is like that shows the type of heart. And to me, if I was there with that second Rhode Island regiment at that time, and I saw a chaplain come out ripping out his beloved books that people sang from for years, and something he believed so firm in, and to believe that, you know what, this cause is worth more than what these books mean to me right now. There it is, right there.
There
Right?
it is. Give him Watts.
He's like, hey, give him Watts. He's handing out his hymns and just ripping papers out.
That's awesome.
And right, and you could actually see, if you look down, you see some of the wad on the ground, like the papers ripped
Yep.
out on the ground.
The guy's
Right?
kneeling.
Yep.
It's awesome.
It is. And that shows, and I know I've repeated it, shows the meaning and what freedom and independence meant to these people.
So,
Right.
so what's our boy Olney doing right now?
All right. So now, all right, let me go through this real quick. And so now the British forces, all right, are trying to cross. And I'll go back. So during this battle, you have the two Olney brothers, or not the brothers. You have Stephen Olney on the left side, and then you got Jeremy Olney on the right side. These guys are fighting to death do them part. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the other slide. This is going to show where those Olney guys are. Okay, so you will see that Captain Jeremiah Olney is positioned on the right side of the bridge near Vauxhall. So he's getting that flanking movement by that Matthews column, right? So he's got the Queen's Rangers, he's got those New Jersey Volunteers. But now on the other side of him, you've got Captain Stephen Olney, who is under Angel, and he's getting pelted by that main force of 3,000 men by Kniphausen's 37th and 38th Regiments of Foot, that Von Dunham Regiment, the Hessian Jaegers Artillery. He's getting pelted right now. And at this point, Captain Stephen Olney gets shot in the arm. All right, he's wounded. So I'll go back. So now, like I said, at 5 a.m., British advance. 8:45, the Rhode Islanders hold. They hold that line to no other. The Hessians and British finally assault the bridge amongst, and it was to the point, from what I read, that they were so close to each other, Ben, that if they had reached out with their muskets and bayonets attached, they would hit the shirt of somebody else on the other side. So hand-to-hand combat's coming real, So that's how close they got. And I don't know what it was, but the British fell back. They were repulsed after that first attack. I don't know what it was. I don't know if somebody was like, what is going on? There was confusion. Well, they got repulsed.
Now, was that water obstacle fordable, or did they have to funnel into the bridge? Did the bridge kind of create a fatal funnel, like when you guys used to stack and go into a room, so it was easier to concentrate defensive firepower on one position?
Yes. So what happened was, so now I remember, there are two bridges on the side, and then there's the Galloping Hill Bridge right there in the middle, right? So those two bridges, they thought that it was going to be easy to get over. So they weren't even concerned about the Bjorn or the crossing the river any other way. They were like, we're going to destroy it. We're walking over it with ease. They weren't worried about anything else. And to me, this is bad tactics on the Hessians, but it also shows that the Hessians have been like this throughout the war, right? They haven't had the best tactics. They haven't thought through and like, oh, we're just going to go in thinking they were the best, right?
Well, to take nothing away from the Hessians, when you look at their combat record throughout the war, they're highly successful, and because a combination of discipline, fire volley, and then give them the steel. And traditionally, that's going to drive off a continental force. And maybe they're still used to that early war reputation of the Continentals, and they're not expecting them to stand their ground. So they might. I'm not an expert on the Battle of Springfield, nor am I an expert on the Hessians, but I'm wondering if they're still remembering 1776, 1777, and now here they are. It's a much more professional Continental force, and these guys are standing their ground.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm just going to piggyback off that real quick because I I think a lot of these Hessians had met these Rhode Islanders somewhere before, right? They've been Trenton, Princeton. They've been at Red Bank, right?
Oh, we know von Donop's regiment definitely. Yeah.
So it makes you wonder if it was just this, like, I'm going to kill him. I don't care what happens. Like, not even thinking, this rage that pushed them to this point, right? Rhode Island, Rhode Island, Rhode Island. They've got this Rhode Island. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but I wonder because, if I was that Hessian that had been there and been attacked and beaten every single time by this Rhode Island regiment, I would have so much animosity against them.
I got you. I understand, man. I understand your point.
So it's like, okay, so now, right, the Hessians assault the bridge for a second time. Again, they get repulsed. It reminds me of a Bunker Hill, right? Up 3 times, and on the third time, they finally make it. But the difference is there's only 160 men with this Rhode Island regiment compared to around 3,000 approximately of these Hessians.
Gotcha.
And yes, and you mentioned that, yes, it is a funnel and a choke point, but you have heavy artillery raining down. You have all this support behind you. How can you not make it across? Not only that, but how long did it take for a Rhode Islander or to reload a musket? I bet you're longer than it would take a Hessian at that time. I could be mistaken. But even with that, how can you not force your way over during the timing of reloading a musket?
And especially since the third attack, so those barrels are foul. They've got unburnt powder in them. It's much harder to ram a ball down. So I'm sure the rate of fire was affected by prolonged combat at that point.
Absolutely. So now they attack a third time, and I kind of messed up. They actually lasted longer than Bunker Hill. They survived 3 attacks. Okay, so now they survived 3 attacks, and the British advance stalls. Now the Hessians are like, we got to figure out what we're doing here because this isn't working. We've tried 3 times and failed all 3 times. We got to figure out what we're doing. So now they try and flank to Vauxhall Road. So Captain Stephen Olney sees them flanking over to that side, pushing over to where the other Jeremiah Olney is. Okay, he takes his troops and runs and pushes over to that side to help him. He got there just in time because he was able to stop that flanking movement from all of that British force coming over because they made it across the bridge over Olney, came over and was able to stall that British attack for so long. And when they did that and the British fell back for a little bit, that's when Greene's like, okay, this isn't going to last much longer. We're going to bring our boys back and we're going to retreat in a tactical manner.
Got it.
Okay. Because now
it's not a rout, it's a tactical phased withdrawal.
And to be honest with you, Ben, in my opinion, to me, this is a victory for the Continental Army because they were there to halt and delay, but they actually stopped them time and time again.
No, it's definitely, this is textbook, man. It's actually pretty impressive.
Right? And not only that, but behind you, you have a third line of defense. So anything goes wrong, guess what? And then behind you, you have reserves, right? So it's like Greene planned this, and this is why I think Greene was the best tactical commander there could have been. And this battle proves it, because he did. It wasn't a loss. Yeah, they lost that ground a little bit, but it wasn't a loss because he did what he went out and planned to do.
And the main body's preserved. They never make it to Morristown, I assume.
Absolutely, they didn't, right? So now the British casualties are estimated to 600 killed and wounded. And
wow, that's like a 20% casualty rate. That's insane.
Right? And it's like, I mean, Rhode Island, experienced some casualties, some really severe casualties too, but they had 160 men. 160 men. And so unfortunately, I could not find the exact amount of casualties. There were multiple different accounts. And I couldn't pinpoint, and I didn't want to say, hey, this is, So I know the casualties were extreme, but they were not as extreme as 604.
Was that 600 against Kniphausen's 3,000 or the overall 6,000 man British?
That was overall.
Okay, so a 10% casualty rates, but
yeah.
still pretty bad. 10% is not good.
Absolutely. Especially when you're going against not many men, 106.
Roger.
So and I get it. The approximate, men that Greene had was about 1,500 to 2,000 men. I don't care who you are. If I see 6,000 men coming at me and I only have two, I might have to use a little boys' room. I'm just saying.
Well, you're always in danger of conflating 20th and 21st century doctrine against things that happened in the 18th century. But if you got a 6,000 man attacking force against a 2,000 man defending force, you got that 3-to-1 superiority ratio. Battle calculus tells you you're probably going to take the position.
Absolutely. And like I said, the British were under the impression that this was going to be easy. Oh, they got militia up here. Oh, they got Rhode Islanders. They don't have enough artillery. We have all this stuff. And look how many men they pushed out. Right? These guys, like I said, weren't slumps. These had some, like you said, heavy hitters on their side.
Oh, heck yeah. It also shows you, you talk about the elements of combat power, and leadership is certainly the most decisive one. And you've got a lot of good leaders on the field that day on the American side.
Yeah, and it goes back to the communication aspect of it too, right? So now when that first line falls and they fall back to, the Rhode Island line, the second line, now, right, they've got to be communicating before, because if I see guys running at me, right, I got my rifle up, right, you don't want friendly fire. So there's a lot of communication.
And also it speaks to their professionalism from the standpoint of, okay, the first line's falling back. I know they're friendly, but they're withdrawing under pressure, and I have the wherewithal and the professionalism to hold my position and not let my fear get the best of me and start withdrawing as well. Trust that this is what's supposed to be happening. Trust we can hold this position, because you can definitely find instances in the history of the American Revolution that a withdrawing force spreads panic among its comrades, and that doesn't happen here.
I mean, we saw that with who was it? General Lee, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, and this map here shows exactly the bridge and what happened. So you see the Hessian Jaegers, you see the Hessian von Dunham Regiment, you see the 37th Regiment, 38th, and the British artillery. So you have these heavy artillery coming down on you. You have Jeremiah Olney, you have Captain Stephen Olney. These guys hold the line. And this is the definition of when somebody yells, hold the line, right? They are holding this line. They held this line so much, they repelled 3 attacks and made an army of 3,000 flank to the right, and then still repelled them there.
So
right?
the British and Hessians never get full control of the pass. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct. And we'll see here in a second. And so, and pretty much, the Rhode Islanders were stubborn. Where do you think I get my stubbornness from? Right? So we're stubborn. We're not going anywhere. And, you know, we had privates, we had NCOs. And imagine being in that Rhode Island regiment as a new private. Imagine this being your first engagement, right? What would you take away from it? I would be like, number one, I'd be like, whoa, so I need to go change my pants. And number two, wow, these guys can fight.
No, exactly. You definitely come away with a sense that you belong to a professional, hardened organization. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And you have to remember, there are 80 men on each side, right? So you have Captain Stephen Olney, right? He's facing 3,000 men plus those extra men from, he's got 80 men with extra men from that first line facing it off against 3,000 British.
No, that's huge. That's incredible.
It's speechless to understand the magnitude of how much power the British had going against these guys.
Amazing. So I don't.
So now
I don't want to rush it, but we only got.
Yeah, no, I'm working right here.
So let's.
Yep.
Because this is not we hear more from Stephen Olney throughout the war. So not only does he perform another Medal of Honor worthy action at Springfield, what else happens?
So now, so the British retreat and Springfield burns, right? So this is a forgotten victory, and this is absolutely, like we just talked about, this is something that people don't talk about, and it is a forgotten victory. You know, not many people realize what happened and the amount of, fight these men did.
Certainly.
So now, after this, right, Olney and the Rhode Island guys are, so now Stephen Olney takes command of the Rhode Island regiments because Angel is wounded and sick and he just can't keep going on. So now they march south, under Lafayette's light infantry brigade. Okay. So they're headed down, and where do they end up? Yorktown.
Amazing.
Okay. It is. It truly is absolutely amazing. And now they're under Lafayette. They go to Yorktown. Let me go back one more. Let me get out of that. Sorry, guys.
No problem. Edit that out as well, man.
Yeah. So they're at Yorktown, and one thing that does happen. So now, Redoubt 10, right? This massive redoubt. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Everybody knows. So now, Stephen Olney, who is a lieutenant colonel, or I believe, I don't know if he got his commission at this time or he stayed a captain. Anyways, he leads men who are going up there to try and take this redoubt. Captain Olney is a beast. I'm going to tell you why. He runs and he's the first man over this walls of the redoubt to meet 6 to 8 bayonets.
Oh my gosh.
6 to 8. He gets stabbed 3 times and cut up all over the place, with one of those stabs piercing through his whole stomach and his whole gut.
And he survives.
And this guy is just one of the most forgotten war heroes to me. And I only heard of him most recently, and I'll tell you where I heard of him, to be honest with you. And it's a shame to say this being from Rhode Island, but I heard of him in that episode of Turn.
Oh, wow.
Right? When George Washington finally says, we're going to Yorktown, he's talking to Rochambeau and Lafayette, and Hamilton looks, and they're talking about the troops ready. Hamilton looks over and says to Washington, "Only in the Second Rhode Island Regiment are ready whenever you are."
Got
Something
it.
along those lines. So that's where I was like, really? And then I figured out, because in Rhode Island, part of Providence, there's a place called Olneyville. So now I'm like, oh, okay. So now, right after the war, he writes a journal and he talks about his hand-to-hand combat with the Hessians. He talks about how when the Hessians were attacking them at Springfield, he yelled out, "We shall not ask nor expect quarter," meaning go down fighting,
Right.
right, go down fighting. He talked about how extreme the violence was, like how brutal the Hessians were compared to regular British troops. So now after the war, he served in the legislature he was a legislator for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
He fought diligently for the Rhode Island veteran. Hardcore, hardcore supporter of veterans. And he continued to serve the public that exemplified who he was, right? He was this honest, tough, but he did it with the respect of other people he didn't agree with.
No, I got you. A true public servant.
So, and actually funny, I'll send it to you, Ben, but there is a flag that they just recently found that was flown at the Battle of Springfield, or something along those lines, that belonged to Captain Stephen Olney.
That's awesome.
And they have it. It was from 1780. It has 9 stripes, and it's in the Rhode Island Historical Society. So I will grab a picture and I will make sure that I send it to you, Ben, and maybe we can add it somehow.
No, that's fantastic.
Then, so he lives his life doing legislator and being a political aspect and constantly fighting for veterans. He dies November 23rd in 1832 in North Providence, Rhode Island. He was a veteran of the nearly entire Revolutionary War. And he is a forgotten Revolutionary War hero, but mostly a forgotten American hero.
No, you're exactly right, Bjorn. And you did a great job bringing his amazing military career to light. I mean, valor at Princeton, saving Monroe, valor at Springfield, holding his position, wounded there, valor at Yorktown, leading the assault at Redoubt 10, severely wounded there, commissioned at 19, company commander to regimental commander throughout, constant promotion throughout the war. It's an amazing record. Again, you know me, I'm a big Kirkwood fan. I always say he's the Audie Murphy of the American Revolution, but there's a lot of Audie Murphy parallels
Yeah,
with Stephen Olney as well. It's very impressive.
yeah, it is, and it's like we all hear about these, Nathaniel Greens and John Starks and the Swamp Fox, Francis Marion. But what about guys like Captain, Olney, right?
No,
Is
you're
it
exactly right.
because he's from Rhode Island and Rhode Island was not that big? Or is it because his story was never told because he didn't want to be told because he wasn't that type of person?
I kind of think it's a little bit of a different take. If we just look at the historiography of the Revolution, uh, definitely in the 18th, going to the 19th century, people were interested in almost the mythology and the great men, Washington, to a lesser extent, Greene, Knox, people like that, Morgan. Um, and then as time progressed and social history became more prominent than just pure military history, and we stopped focusing on generals, people wanted to kind of focus on, well, what did the little guys experience? But when they talk about the little guys, they mean like the Joseph Plum Martins. What did the private soldier endure? And there, it's almost like you got a spectrum that goes from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high, and the Olneys, who are smack dab in the middle, are overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that. And it's to me like the Joseph Plum Martins and the Olneys and all that. That's where you get the truth of actually what happened, right? You could be these officers, but and if you looked at the Battle of Springfield, Green was all the way in the back. He doesn't have a front row seat, so he's not getting that front row action where these guys are seeing it up front.
No, you're exactly right, man.
And then one more thing is like, and I wanted to ask you this, Ben, right? So now the victory at Yorktown, do people talk about Yorktown in the Southern campaign more than the North because that's where the victory was?
Well, I think Yorktown definitely gets the attention that it deserves because you get the
Yep.
surrender of Cornwallis, last major action. We all know the war goes on for another 2 years, but there's fighting still down in the South. But Washington's army goes into basically cantonments, sits outside New York City. It's not until 1783 that the Treaty of Paris is signed. But Yorktown's this big victory. It's Washington's, finest hour kind of thing. But I'm of the opinion that the Southern campaign as a whole doesn't get much attention. If you look at, especially, growing up in the North, you go from Lexington and Concord through New York, maybe down to the Philadelphia campaign, and then you jump ahead 3 years to the Battle of Yorktown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the Southern campaign, which has become my research interest, is starting to finally really get the attention that it deserves with the 250th anniversary of the Revolution occurring now. Because I was explaining to my mom about the Southern campaign. She was asking what I was working on, and she was like, "I have no idea what any of these battles you're talking about are." And my mother's just
Absolutely. It's true. And that's why I came across the Battle of Springfield. I've never heard of it before. I didn't realize it was there. I know about Morristown and I know about battles around that, but I didn't know the detail and what actually happened here. And to me, this is a lost battle for a lot of people.
Now, you did a great job bringing it to light, man. But we've gone a little long.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
I want to thank you for doing such a fantastic job on
Thank you.
taking the lead on this episode and the great research you've done, not only on Olney, but on the Battle of Springfield and the tactical results that had such big implications for Washington's main army and kept them protected. So just a fantastic episode. So
Thanks.
I just want to say thanks for everybody for listening. This is Ben Powers and my compatriot.
Thank you very much. I'm Bjorn Bruckshaw. I hope you guys like this. We're on Facebook at Rhode Island. We're on YouTube. Come check us out. Give us a like. We're glad to talk to you about anything Revolutionary War, but try and keep it about Rhode Island. All right, guys. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you later.
Take care.